I'm super excited to be talking to you, and I hope that you find what you learn here useful in terms of your strategy surrounding digital content and how ebook bundling could and should be a part of that strategy. Just a quick note that we'll be talking about ebook bundling in general, so it'll be all kinds of things, and not just the BitLit system. So I'm happy to answer any and all questions you have at the end of the webinar. Ebook bundling is the act of offering an ebook at a reduced cost, either at or after point of purchase of the print book. It's beneficial to the publisher for a number of reasons. One is to increase their income from an initial print sale. Another is that it increases the publisher's brand recognition, and a third is that it increases the perceived value of the package as a whole. I find the quickest way of deciding if your books would benefit from bundling is to think of a time when you yourself have desired flexibility from a book. I am a huge print book reader, as my very small apartment can attest. My favorite place to read is in the bath, which is far better for printed books than e-readers, I must admit. However, I also commute to and from work, and I travel on a pretty regular basis. So for me, the flexibility of ebook bundling makes a lot of sense. It allows me to read how I want, when I want. It allows me to read my print books at home without fear of damaging my e-reader, but then bring my e-reader with me on the bus or plane instead of having to find room for a bulky book in my handbag. I've put a photo here of Far From the Tree on this slide because this, for me, is the ultimate reason for ebook bundling. I bought this book recently. It's a 900-page manifesto on parenting, and I have never taken it from my bedside table. It's definitely one that I think would benefit from ebook bundling. So in organizing this talk, I tried to think of the questions that I'm most frequently asked regarding ebook bundling. Is bundling right for my books? How should I price a bundled ebook? Will bundling my print and ebooks cannibalize my other sales? How will readers find out if I have bundled my ebooks? And how much is bundling going to cost me in time and money? I think all of these questions boil down to what am I going to get out of ebook bundling, which is a completely reasonable question. It shouldn't only benefit the reader, it should also benefit the publisher. So let's get started. I want to talk to you all today about who an ebook bundler is. There are countless groups of people who would benefit from ebook bundling, but I picked out commuters, Generation Y, and baby boomers as the groups we're going to talk about today. I spend a lot of time talking to people about commuters. Commuting is, without a doubt, a boring way to spend your time. And with the rise of e-readers and smartphones, more and more people spend their time reading books while in transit. Putting this presentation together made me want to get my facts in order regarding commuters, i.e., how many people are actually commuting. The 2010 census confirms the following averages regarding commuters. On average, 20% of Torontonians commute by public transit, 41% of Montrealers, and 32% of Vancouverites. And those living in major city centers are commuting an average of half an hour, and those living outside major city centers are commuting about 35 minutes, so a little over half an hour. If we look at the data from 1996 through to 2010, the distance that people are traveling to get to work is only increasing, as is the use of the public transit system, which means publishers have a captive audience. In addition, about 11% of Canadians travel for business a year. Another important group to discuss is Generation Y, which references people born from the early 80s to the late 90s. In 2012, Ebook observed that Gen Y had risen to the top of the book buying heap. I have included a cheeky infographic to the left that shows the kinds of things that Gen Y purchases, but I think there's actually a strong point to be made here about readers. You'll notice two things about this Gen Y gentleman. One is that he consumes digitally. He reads internet memes, he navigates by app, he spends a lot of money on a smartphone, but he also values perceived quality and things that ultimately make him, quote unquote, look better, like the pair of jeans hand-sewn by silent Japanese monks. All to say, Gen Y wants to read digitally, but that doesn't mean that they don't want a beautiful book gracing their shelves. If I hadn't purchased the print copy of Andrew Solomon's manifesto, how else would anyone know that I've read it? The third group that we're going to talk about is the baby boomers. They remain the second most important group of book buyers. These are individuals who grew up buying books from bookstores and are still most comfortable with print. However, as they grow older, they find ebooks have offered an alternative that may make reading easier through larger font, etc. In fact, they are now the group most likely to own an e-reader. As they are still most comfortable discovering books in bookstores, however, ebook bundling after point of purchase is a great option for this customer because they can buy the print book to which they are accustomed and download and download the ebook when they get home. Obviously, there are lots of other reader groups that we could look at. Students come to mind, for example. Harnessing the ability to read wherever, but search for that specific quote in the ebook later would be useful. But for now, let's look at some specific facts about bundling. So some of these you may have already heard. Some will probably be new to you. Approximately 120 million people in North America own e-readers. 48% of readers say that they would pay more for a print book if it came bundled with an ebook. 20% of readers would buy one book over another if it came with the ebook. 30% of BISG respondents reported they purchased ebooks and print books interchangeably. One of the top 10 suggestions on Indigo ideas from customers is ebook bundling. Studies show that readers would be encouraged to buy a print book if it were bundled with an ebook, and less than 1% of book purchases were ebooks where the owner already owned the same title in print. And this last point is perhaps the most interesting from a bundling perspective, and one that we'll come back to when we talk about cannibalization. I find it particularly interesting given the recent report from BISG that ebook sales flattened out in 2013, making ebook bundling a place where sales still have room to grow. However, this still all boils down to money for me. As with any business, the bottom line is important. So I'm going to take you through a breakdown of the profit margin on print, and bundled ebooks to see how this model benefits publishers. For this purpose, I've used our publishing partner Coach House Books' title Stroll by Sean McAuliffe, which I hope some of you will be familiar with. It's a great book. I first saw this kind of breakdown on the Digital Book World blog, so I based a number of my assumptions on the information there. If you're interested in the link, I can share it with you later. So we're looking at Stroll, which retails for $24.95 as a print book. Of that, only $10.60 is left after accounting for the retailer margin and the distribution costs, which are 50% and 10% respectively. Of that $10.60, we need to account for a minimum of 15% print and editorial costs and 5% marketing costs. Now, in the example I looked at, the whole cost of marketing and editorial was borne by the print book, but I feel fairly strongly that it should be split between the print and the ebook. In today's marketplace, for most books, it's not optional to create both the print book and the ebook, and also a lot of marketing for the print book occurs online and vice versa. So I've set this up to show $1.87 in printing costs, but then I've split the editorial and marketing costs across the print and ebook for 94 cents and 62 cents respectively. Then we also need to account for royalties, which obviously exist on a wide range depending on the author, but I'm going to say 8% of cost for this. And then after the cost of returns, which can amount to about $1 a unit, we end up with a publisher net of $4.18. Now we're going to look at the ebook sold alone. Stroll, in particular, retails for $14.95 as an ebook. And after 50% off to the retailer, we're looking at $7.48 less distribution costs of 10%. Cost of production on a per unit basis is obviously much lower for an ebook at 15 cents. That's ebook-specific production cost divided by average unit sales. But as you can see here, we also have that shared cost of marketing and editorial showing up at $1.66. Sorry, guys. My slides just skipped ahead. Author royalties usually sit at about 25%, so we're looking at $1.68 for a publisher net of $3.34. And obviously we're talking about bundling, so we need to talk about what happens when we bundle the ebook. I'm looking at this from the BitLit perspective, which is definitely different from the Matchbook perspective. We're going to assume a discount of 75% from the digital list price. So now we're selling the print book and we're offering the ebook for $3.99. The actual 75% off cost is $3.57, but BitLit rounds up to the nearest 99 cents because that's what Apple requires for their apps. Right now, BitLit is offering terms of 65% to publishers and 35% to BitLit. 30% of BitLit's margin goes to pay Google and Apple for their in-app purchasing. And so BitLit will take 20 cents from the sale of a $3.99 ebook, and Apple and Google will take $1.20. The publisher then takes a gross of $2.59, less 26 cents for 10% distribution costs, so $2.33, and I think arguably that cost may actually be lower. And then assuming costs of 15 cents for ebook production and 25% for author royalty, you have a publisher net of $1.60. So now we add to that the net profit we made on the print book. And as you can see from this breakdown, the publisher now stands to make an increased net of $5.78. So obviously the numbers on this can move a bit depending on all sorts of pieces of the puzzle, but let's suffice it to say that with bundling you stand to increase the profit margin from what you would have made on the print book or ebook alone. So given the BISG recently reported the tapering off of ebook sales at 30% for units and 15% for dollars, it's reasonable that publishers are looking for new avenues of income from ebooks. Just as some publishers have been partnering with services like Script or Oyster, ebook bundling offers an opportunity to increase sales volume. Instead of devaluing an ebook, I think it also shows the value of the two formats in conversation with each other. Now seems like a good time to talk about the aspect of cannibalization. An astute publisher might worry that people are already buying their books in both print and digital formats, so if they offer bundled ebooks, they are going to cannibalize their current digital sales. As I mentioned earlier, BitLit's market research suggests that less than 1% of readers were actually buying books in both print and digital formats, yet over 49% of readers want to bundle and cite cost as the reason they do not. Obviously, market demand offers far better returns than what publishers are currently receiving. In addition, when we compare the publisher net profit of a new ebook with that of a bundled ebook sold through BitLit, publishers make $1.47 selling a bundled ebook and $3.34 selling a new ebook. That is, if a bundled ebook sale through BitLit resulted in cannibalization of the full price print and digital sale one time free, publishers still make more money by bundling. Let's say that the print book sold a modest 5,000 copies in print. If the publisher did not offer bundling through BitLit, they might estimate about 50 people would purchase both print and ebook. These full-price ebook sales to people who own the book in print would net the publisher an extra $167. However, if the publisher were to offer bundling through BitLit, they could expect to see the number of readers who buy the bundled ebook increase to 2,450, especially if they advertise on the print edition that the bundled ebook is available, which amounts to $3,920 in net upsales, so obviously a pretty big difference. I want to mention here that the number of downloads you see will also increase depending on the discount offered. So we found that 75% off is kind of like the tipping point that causes people to bundle, and then as you go up, that percentage increases. So at 90% off, you're going to see closer to 80% of people bundling. So you have to kind of decide on your own which discount is the best for you. I also want to address the philosophical issue that some people have with ebook bundling. A comment that I often hear is a fear that bundling an ebook will decrease the perceived value of ebooks in general. My response to this is that the bundled ebook is in and of itself a separate edition. It can no more erode the value of the ebook than a hardcover edition erodes the value of a paperback. In addition, the incremental value to the customer of purchasing both the print and digital together is so huge as to increase the value of each product respectively. I think it's also important to think about how the consumer views this. The low-priced ebook sold as a bundle with a print book is a completely different value proposition for the consumer. There's a long-standing tradition in consumer marketing of bundling related products at lower prices. I think we instinctively understand that we are getting a deal for the combined purchase that we could not get otherwise. And if publishers maintain current pricing, consumers are getting a deal they will fully understand in the bundling offer. So going back to Stroll, in point of fact, Coach House Books actually bundles their print and ebooks together for free. So this begs the question, if they stand to make more profit by charging, why would they choose to supply for free? And this is where we get onto slightly trickier ground in the discussion of social currency versus physical currency. I recently read a really wonderful free Penguin short called 10 Ways to Make Money in a Free World. And Penguin shorts are a series that Penguin UK puts out. They are sort of tiny, short ebooks that are based on larger books, and they're supposed to engage you in a way that causes you to buy the larger print book. So in this particular book, Nicholas Lovell outlines why people give things away for free. Essentially, the same technology that enables files to be shared easily also offer an unprecedented opportunity to build one-to-one relationships with your customers and fans. The web enables artists and businesses to share what they do at a very low cost while building relationships with customers. How you choose to respond to this opportunity will determine how you fare in the digital age. So what did I do after I read the free ebook? Well, I watched a free 15-minute webinar, and I enjoyed that. So then I went out and bought the Curve in hardcover for substantially more than free. So Level's point rests on the idea that you can make your freeloaders, i.e. me when I downloaded the free ebook, into fans, i.e. me when I bought the print book, and then even into super fans, and those would be the people who paid a lot of money to have lunch with Level after the launch of the book. In reality, what Level outlines in this book is something we all know already because we participate in this culture. When you give something away for free, you are buying goodwill, something that we do every day. In fact, I wouldn't be talking to you about this book if Level and Penguin hadn't bought my goodwill by giving me a free ebook. In a society where everything is available for a reasonable price at good quality, the only way to decide what to buy is based on how it emotionally resonates. I may be biased, but to me, books are an artifact best suited to this kind of purchasing. Not only can they be beautifully designed, but they expand our minds and contribute to the very cultural fabric of society. So what better platform to build social currency on? So taking all that into account, when Coach House Books gives away a bundled copy of the ebook for Stroll with each purchase, they are buying goodwill. For an industry that has notorious difficulty in branding itself because so much is done to brand the author, this is a great way of bringing the publisher to the reader's attention. I, for one, would look for a Coach House logo when I was looking for my next book because they offer me a convenience that I am in need of. In the case of Coach House, they offer bundled ebooks directly and also through the BitLit app. And this gives them the opportunity to engage directly on 2 counts with their reader and build brand recognition to increase their sales and readership following. Okay, so earlier we talked about superfans, and I want to come back to this for a moment. For this, I'm going to reference Michael Basker's new book, The Content Machine. Early on, Basker states the quote that I've referenced above, the publishers are amplifiers of content. So essentially, the idea of giving something away for free is that now you've got people on the hook, so to speak. You have the opportunity then to amplify your content further, and whether that's by offering special signed copies of books or hosting author lunches. Essentially, the idea is that you now have this opportunity to ask people to participate in your tribe and to pay for the honor of doing it. This plays directly into a publisher's decision regarding ARPU, or average revenue per user, versus actual units sold. So Amazon, for example, is able to offer discount prices on books because they have a high ARPU. People will come to their site to buy that blockbuster for $2.99, and then they stay to purchase the more expensive blender. By giving something away as a loss leader, they acquire more business in the long run. By giving away a bundled copy of an ebook, a publisher stands to increase the possibility of selling the reader more books in the future, or further amplifications of their content. Now, of course, there is a middle ground in the decision between free and discounted, and I've outlined some of the options here that I've talked to various publishers about. So you can offer your backlist for free, but price the front list, or vice versa. You can do special discounts on titles for a short period of time. Readers need to engage immediately in order to take advantage, so that could be a Christmas special or a one-time deal. You can bundle titles that are in a series. So if you have a reader that owns book 1 in the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, you can offer them that book for free, and then at the same time offer them book 2 and 3 at a discount. And then you can also bundle similar books by genre or author. But well, if you like this book, you'll love this book. So this brings us to how can you bundle up? And there are a number of different options. Coach House and ECW, for example, use mailed-in or emailed-in receipts as proof of ownership of a print book, and they then email out the ebook copy themselves, and there are a lot of other publishers who've started doing this. Osprey's Angry Robot in the UK offers bundled editions through local bookstore, mostly books. And then there's also the opportunity to use scratch-off codes or QR codes or tarot cards, although the drawback to this is that usually you then have to shrink wrap the book, which is an extra cost. Another one that I actually heard about just the other day on the Digital Book World blog is that RCS Libri in Italy recently launched a P and ebook bundling marketing initiative through online bookstores for the holiday season. So whenever anybody went into a store and bought one of 110 of the best books that they published in the year, they got a promo credit attached to their account, and then they would be able to redeem they were able to redeem the ebook basically up until the end of January. So this was like a special Christmas deal. Another option, obviously, is Amazon's Matchbook. So launched last August with 100,000 titles. Matchbook has made ebook bundling a reader expectation. To date, several large publishers are participating, including the likes of HarperCollins and Source Books. Amazon doesn't offer a lot of flexibility with their program, and they require that all titles be priced at $2.99 or below, and ebooks will only be delivered via the Kindle platform, and publishers are able to access aggregated and anonymized sales reporting. Assuming publishers' permission, readers are able to access any book sold through Amazon since 1995. The argument has been made that Matchbook is not meant to sell more books, but rather to sell more Kindles by bringing the last of ebook holdouts over to Amazon's e-reading platform. I think the idea here is that Kobo can't offer that, so why would you buy a Kobo? It's better to buy a Kindle. I just want to take you through how Kindle Matchbook works for the user. So I did this yesterday. I searched Kindle Matchbook and found this page on the .com website, and you just come to the page and you click Find Your Kindle Matchbook Titles, and then it punts you to this page. Now, I frankly don't do a lot of my book purchasing on Amazon, so I don't have any Kindle Matchbook titles, but if you did have Kindle Matchbook titles, they would then pop up and be available for download. And then we have BitLit. BitLit is an ebook bundling app for smartphone users that allows for bundling after point of purchase. So rather than Amazon's model where you can only bundle through the retailer, BitLit allows a reader to bundle any book bought at any bookstore. It will work for books received as gifts and will work on old editions of titles as well, assuming that the publisher has converted the book to an ebook. Unlike Amazon, publishers have the ability to set their own price. We usually suggest, as I mentioned earlier, 75 to 90% off the digital price, but that's by no means a requirement. We can also deliver to any e-reader device given that we have the files, so BitLit is not tied to a specific platform. And another sort of interesting thing that came up recently in the news is that Amazon, obviously, when you're buying from a company like Amazon, you're buying a license, so they have the ability to pull back those books at any time. So with BitLit, in fact, you are actually selling the ebook. It can't be taken away. And I want to take you through the user experience. So a reader will start by opening the app, at which point they land on the first screen, which shows any books that they've already validated. And then there are two other sections. One is for the books that are in the system, and another for the publishers that have signed up. I like this feature because it means when you're at a bookstore, you can quickly check if the book will be available for download. And once you've opened the app, you click on the camera icon, and it activates your camera with a screen that has an outline of a tilted book. So you fit your book into the outline and snap a photo. And the app then uses cutting-edge computer vision software to recognize the elements on a cover and match them with the cover in our database. So you can see in this, in the second image that it's pulled up Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman, and it said that it's published by Purchase Books and it's available for download. So, and then a new screen will appear that pushes you to take a photo of the copyright page, where the reader is required to write their name and pen to verify ownership. The name they write must match the name attached to their account, and we also validate that the ISBN on the copyright page matches the ISBN of the book. Then one of two things will happen. If the book is priced, they'll be sent to a second page where they say, yes, I'm going to pay my $3.99 to download. And if the book is not priced, they'll be sent an email saying you can download the electronic version of your book in the following format. In this case, it says EPUB because that is the format that we hold from Coach House. But if we have the EPUB, the MOBI, the PRC, the PDF, all of those would show up. And we can even do this for audiobooks. So as I see it, the major benefit of the BitLit model is that the locus of book discovery returns to bookstores. The equation is pretty simple here. For a book to sell, it needs to first be discovered by readers. Once a title has been discovered, it will automatically see a sales cycle driven by word of mouth. But if you look at the numbers, only 7% of readers say they discovered a book online. About 1 in 4 offline print book purchase decisions are impulse buys, driven by in-store displays, whereas only 1 in 10 online ebook purchase decisions are impulse. Impulse purchases are a key driver in title discoverability, and ebook bundling after point of purchase provides publishers with a way to drive consumers with e-readers back into bookstores, thus improving discoverability. When a publisher offers their title as a companion ebook through BitLit, they are giving consumers a compelling reason to venture back into their local bookstore, buy the print book, and get the discounted or free ebook. This, in turn, is good for bookstore business, which helps strengthen the book retail landscape. In this way, BitLit offers a hybrid retail solution that supports physical and digital bookselling. BitLit also offers a new way for publishers to connect with readers. Traditional book distribution channels did not capture and share consumer details with publishers. When publishers offer bundled ebooks to owners of frontlist and backlist titles, publishers have no opportunity to capture consumer information from both past and future print sales. In the BitLit model, participating publishers gain access to their customers' names and email addresses to build their direct marketing databases. So another most frequently asked question is how readers will find out that you are offering bundling. To me, this is an extension of the question, how will readers find out about my books? In 1990, O'Leary said there were about 900,000 ISBNs, but in today's publishing world, there are more products than ever before. There are 32 million ISBNs and an unknown number of unidentified books. So how does a reader find out about your book, and then how do they find out that they can also buy the ebook? So readers will find out that you are offering bundling in all the ways that they find out you published a book, through blogs, Twitter, Facebook, news media, etc. We also have a number of publishers who have chosen to add decals to the back of their books or entries on the copyright page. You can see the first one is a Touchwood, is something that Touchwood has put on the back of their books, and then the one on the far right is one that's in Morgan James books, and that indicates that the book is available for bundling. Another great aspect of returning discovery to the local bookstore is the opportunity to market to readers there. So in the fullest of time, BitLit will do outreach directly to bookstores with shelf trackers, bookmarks, posters, reaching readers where they are shopping for their books and allowing bookstores to advertise bundling as a service they can provide to customers. Obviously, for programs that use point of purchase as the link between print and e, a system is built in for them, but this is also inherently limiting. BitLit has plans for major outreach through the bookseller associations and rep groups. Okay, so the last item that I promised to talk about is what will bundling cost you in time and money. We all know the reality that nothing we do is entirely free of either of those things. So on this point, I can really only speak to BitLit's position. I don't know exactly what's involved in signing up for Matchbook. As someone who worked for a long time on the other side of things, managing in Frill and Kobo sales for Douglas & McIntyre, I know how much time goes into all of these pieces. From our perspective, anything we can do to make it easier, we will do, but there will be some initial investment in terms of sending files and Onyx data. Once that initial investment is made, there should be nothing required from the publisher in order to offer this great value to their customer. I'm not certain of Matchbook's system in terms of payment, but BitLit also agrees to send you payment and user data at the end of every month, so you'll see real-time results from those who bundle their books. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. So we're now going to get started with the question and answer period. And of course, I just want to mention that if you want to follow up with me after this webinar and talk to me separately about anything, I'm 100% available. So Jordan, I'm going to turn this back to you to answer questions.
All right, so we'll start the question and answer period. Our first question is, what kind of user data can we expect to receive through BitLit?
So you're going to receive things like the email address and the person's name, and then you'll also obviously receive payment for anything that's downloaded. So you'll see how many people are downloading, what you're, obviously you're probably already getting the data about how many people are buying the print edition, so you can then compare that to how many people have bought and bundled the ebook edition.
The next question is, does Apple's iBook store offer a bundling program like BitLit or like Matchbook? To your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, Apple and Kobo inherently are going to have trouble bundling because they're not directly affiliated with a bookstore, and that would probably be the direction that they would go. I guess Kobo could try doing it through Indigo, though I know that they haven't done that yet. And to my knowledge, the iBook store doesn't have any interest in doing that.
I had a question about this might go a bit beyond what the scope of the presentation is, but how the technology works for the BitLit app, where it recognizes your name. Sort of, what's the security? Are there security issues with that at all, or how does that work?
Sorry, I'm not sure that I can tell you how it works in the sense that what we're doing is using the computer's, the phone's eye, so the camera,
right,
to recognize the letters in the name, essentially, and then that matches those letters to the name on the account of the user.
Is it possible to browse BitLit to see the books that are bundled? That's the first question. And then the second question is, or do you need the physical book first to discover what is bundled with BitLit?
You can browse BitLit to see what publishers and what books are available.
What about bundling out of print or older print editions to a current edition ebook?
You could definitely do that. I'm just going to ask if we can clarify the question in the sense that, is there a newer edition and we're bundling to the old edition, or is there just now an ebook edition of an out-of-print book?
She says either one.
Okay, so there's a number of things that we can do in there. One is, with BitLit, you can actually assign different covers to a single title. So if you had, say, a new edition of an out-of-print edition, and they had two different covers, we could assign both of those covers to the new edition, and then anybody with the old edition would be able to download the new edition ebook. The other thing is, if we're just talking about we have an old edition and we now have the ebook, we want to allow people to bundle it, absolutely. Like, you would give us the ebook file and the cover image, and then anybody who wanted to bundle that out-of-print title that they still own would be able to do that.
A lot of options.
Yeah, totally. The one thing I really like about BitLit is the flexibility, and because it's still, we're not a monolithic company like Amazon, there's still the ability for you to say, I want to be able to do this, and us to say, okay, we'll make it happen. So that's a really advantageous aspect of the software.
Another question here is, other than the groups of people that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, who else do you think bundling is good for?
I mean, I'll be honest and say I think bundling is good for everybody. There's not a lot of people who aren't going to want to bundle. I still feel students are a great option. Like, I did an English degree, and I would have loved to have been able to search Virginia Woolf's text for that one quote that I was never able to find again after I'd read the book and didn't really want to reread it. I think there's also lots of people who are moving from print into digital and want to be able to digitize their library, but it's just too expensive to do. I think you'll probably find that in every group of people, there are people who have a reason that they want to bundle.
Next question is, do you know if ECW and Coach House are emailing out web PDFs of their bundled books or actual ebook formats? EPUB and Mobi.
I mean, I would probably say that question would be better addressed by them. My understanding from the literature that I've read when ECW started is that they are sending out ebook files, but yeah, I mean, that's probably a question for them.
Follow-up to that one was, you mentioned they, as in Coach House and ECW, are both doing their own version and using BitLit. Do you know if they're both offering the books for free in both instances?
I just want to clarify, Coach House Books is the only one that's also using the BitLit app. ECW is using it right now. But with Coach House, yes, Coach House offers it for free themselves and then also for free through the app.
And the last part of that question is there a reason that Coach House, now that they've signed up with BitLit to offer free bundling, that they're still also doing it directly themselves?
I mean, I'm not sure. I suspect that they could now direct people to download the BitLit app. We just launched the Android within the past 2 months, so I think probably they're still working through the switchover.
Does BitLit work with CoreSource?
Yes. Yeah, we'll work with anybody, so CoreSource, Constellation, DeMarc, whoever you're using as your distribution agent, we're happy to work with them to receive your information.
A lot of questions. The next one is, so is the BitLit book recognition technology not ISBN-based, but rather cover recognition-based?
It's both. So
it's both.
The cover is image recognition based. This is also a really good way of weeding out different editions of titles and stuff. But you take a picture of the cover in order to pull up the correct cover so that we know what you're applying it to. And then on the copyright page, we not only recognize the person's name, we also recognize the ISBN of the book. So we match the two together to make sure the cover goes with that ISBN.
So the next question is, keep rolling in, who hosts the bundled ebook? Is it BitLit?
Yes.
And then the follow-up question to that is, so is the ebook accessed through the reader's BitLit account in that scenario?
No. So we deliver it to them. So we hold that file in order to deliver it, but once it's sent to the user, they host it. So they're not reading within the BitLit app. They're able to download that file and read it on any e-reader or on their phone or however they want to use it.
And then another related question to that is, are there DRM settings that publishers can set in relation to the books they provide to BitLit?
Yeah, so you have all of the options at your disposal, I guess is the way to put that. We can supply books DRM free. We can use Bookstream, which is a social DRM. We can use non-social DRM. We have our own social DRM that we've developed in-house. So there are a lot of different options for applying DRM to the books. Depending on what you decide to do, that DRM application does come out at the 65%. So if you went with Bookstream, I think it's something like 23 cents a unit or something. But yeah, all the options are available.
This question was, is BitLit subscription-based or book-by-book cost-based? And I'm pretty sure it's book-by-book, not a subscription. That's right?
That's right.
This publisher currently on their website only has divided their hiking books so that specific sections can be bought as ebooks depending upon which section of the book that interests them. For example, a Nova Scotia section of the book.
Right. I think that Lonely Planet does that too. Like you can download specific sections of the book.
Okay.
Yeah. So is the question, can you do that through the bundle?
Yeah, the question is specifically, would BitLit be able to offer more than one ebook option to their customers?
Absolutely. It's funny. I just heard the other day about Lonely Planet doing that, which I think is pretty cool because often I buy a Lonely Planet book and I'm like, well, I really only need one chapter in this book.
Right.
So yes, what we could do is you could have a bundle so that it was $4.99 to bundle the full book, but 99 cents to bundle a portion of the book. Please select the portion. That's absolutely a possibility.
That's really a good feature to have. Do you have any books on the service right now that are using that, or?
No, we don't right now, but it would be really exciting to do. I really think that that's a great offer to readers.
So this question you might not be able to answer, but it's with CoreSource. How do publishers supply the different price types to BitLit?
Okay, well, pricing, there's a few ways that you can do pricing. One of them is we did get added to Onyx a code that indicates a bundled price, so a price based on a former purchase, essentially. I can't remember the code number right now, but that is in CoreSource, I'm pretty sure now. What we usually do is we do a blanket discount. So let's say all of your books you want to offer at a 75% discount, but we are able to go in there and modify particular prices. So if you want to have one price for free and then this book at $2.99 and that book at $4.99, whatever, that's absolutely possible.
Yeah, I believe we addressed this. We did a tutorial about sending content to BitLit last summer, and I believe there's information on our website that indicates how you would set that up in your CoreSource template or your Onyx metadata to send that to BitLit. But if you'd like more information, by all means, reach out to us. We're happy to provide guidance. The next question is, what's the percentage that BitLit takes per unit sale?
5%. And then 30% goes to Apple and Google. So 65% to the publisher.